Welcome to the AFR Saints channel, where we provide you daily content on your favorite team, the New Orleans Saints. Do us a favor and hit that subscribe button. Be sure to leave your comments below and smash that like button. Who dat? Wednesday was day one of Saints training camp, after which Dennis Allen made a comment. Can you play number 7, please, Muse? Dennis Allen made this comment about veteran players trying to make this roster.
With all of these older veteran players, I don't have to see it every day, but at some point I got to see it, you know. So yeah, look, there's going to be a point here in training camp preseason where all these veteran guys, you know, have to be able to show that they can still do it and do it at a high level. That
was really interesting to me, in particular because of something Dennis Allen said on the eve of training camp. And who he's talking about there are guys like Jimmy Graham, 36-year-old Jimmy Graham, who didn't play last year. Trey Turner, who's now with his 5th team in as many years, but has made 5 Pro Bowls. Max Garcia, who's played 8 years and is part of a Super Bowl team in Denver, but has to earn a roster spot. And I started thinking not only about the free agents they signed, James Washington, Brian Edwards, but a lot of guys on this team, some young veterans, some older veterans, but still have to earn their spot. Andrus Peat, James Hurst. I mean, these are real questions about some of these guys, if they're going to make this team. And I think sometimes I guess you can't say sometimes, always. Sometimes we just default to draft picks and assume that they're going to make the team. And look, whenever you've invested draft capital on a player, you're going to give them more opportunity. It would have to be something overwhelming like, the example we always bring up is when the Saints drafted Antonio Pittman back in 2007 and cut him, and they kept Pierre Thomas, the undrafted free agent. The reason we keep bringing up that example from 16 years ago is it hasn't really happened since. It's rare. Stanley Jean-Baptiste was a second-round pick who got cut in year 2. In camp in year 2. Second-round pick got cut year 2 of camp. So it happens. And when Dennis Allen said this about Peyton Turner, it got me thinking.
Number 1, be available. And number 2, just continue to improve every day. I thought it was good to have him out there for a full offseason, and I thought he improved throughout OTAs and training camp. I'm looking for more development out of him this year. And I'm not focused on the end result. I'm focused on the process. And I just want to see him be available and then continue to get better day in and day out.
I just want to see him be available. I'm not focused on the end result. I'm focused on the process. That's not normally the conversation you have about a first-round draft pick. You expect your first-round picks to play immediately and be impactful. Let's look at what Chris Olave did a year ago. Look at what the expectation is for Brian Brzee this year. It's, hey, man, you're not just going to play. You're going to start game 1, and I need you to be a dude. Meanwhile, Peyton Turner's entering year 3. He's played a total of 13 games. Played 5 games as a rookie, 8 games last year. And it's not just health. He's been a healthy scratch at times as well. The guy just can't play. So almost anything you get out of him is land gap, which got me thinking back to the point, is Peyton Turner a lock to make this team? I don't think necessarily that he is. So no, this is the time of year where everybody puts out their 53-man roster projections, and everybody does it. And I don't blame them. It's interesting conversation. But I'm less interested in that because there are always guys. We could all take our best guess today at what we think is going to happen, but there's always guys in camp that surprise us and that make the roster. Every single year, there are undrafted free agents that make the roster, without exception. So who are those guys going to be? And some of them are still impactful guys. Calvin Throckmorton, Malcolm Roach. I mean, JT Gray. You know the list. There's always guys that make the roster and become impactful guys. So I'm less, and we can't possibly know that after one day of training camp. So the thing I did today was I literally got a pen and paper. I don't know if the lights may be too bright. You may be washed out and you may not be able to see that. But I got a pen and paper today, and I wrote down the guys that I think are absolute locks to make this team. Remember, you got a 53-man roster. So I started thinking, all right, who are locks? I mean, you are like, it don't matter. You are on the team. Not most likely gonna make it. I mean, you are Derek Carr. You are on this team. Lock. And I was surprised at how few of them there were. I got to 34. Which, again, I'm not saying this is gospel, but that means, according to this, there's at least 19 guys we're assuming are going to make this roster that have to go prove it, which feels like a lot. Because usually you go into a camp and there's 4 or 5 spots on the fringes. And again, most of these guys there's a preponderance of a possibility that they are going to make this team. But ain't a lock. Actually, Muse and Paulie, check me on this just to see if you agree or disagree. So open your mics. Like, this isn't anything super formal. I just want to throw the names. You just tell me if we have any disagreement. So quarterback, remember, lock to make the team. Carr and Winston, 2.
Yeah.
Agreed.
Okay, they have Jake Haener. They used a 4th-round pick on him. If you sign him to the practice squad, there's always a chance he could get signed away, but he could also go throw up on himself. All right? I'm talking lock to make the team. All right. Running back, I think all 3. Kamara, Williams, Miller, locks.
Yeah, I agree.
Yes.
I cannot see a scenario where those 3 guys don't make the team. They're going to keep a fullback. The only one's Adam Prentice. He's a lock to make the team.
Yes.
Barring injury. Receiver to me is interesting because I only have 2. Olave and Michael Thomas are the only locks to make this team. I think Rashid Shaheed will make the team, but he's not a lock. A.T. Perry, Brian Edwards, James Washington, Tre'Quan Smith. They got a lot of bodies there, and they're going to keep 6 of them most likely, 5 or 6 receivers. But I would say the only lock, like it don't matter, you on this team are Chris Olave and Michael Thomas.
I agree with that. I think Shaheed would be the only other one that I could consider. But like you said, lock, just 2.
Shaheed's entering year 2. And yes, he's your returner as well. And so I agree with you there. But could you see a scenario unfold throughout camp where A.T. Perry, Brian Edwards, James Washington, they love Tre'Quan, like all those guys make the team along with Olave, Mike Thomas at your 6, and Shaheed don't make it? Could you see that scenario unfolding?
I could see that, especially with a
Possible?
guy like Tre'Quan, who's a veteran.
Yeah.
I mean, like I would actually lean to him possibly being a lock too because of that reason.
Oh, Tre'Quan's not a veteran.
Well, I know you.
No, it's not even that. Like, he wasn't re-signed after last
That
year.
is true.
He went to free agency. He had 1 visit with Atlanta.
The veteran aspect intrigues me there, though.
So 2, maybe 3 if you want to throw Shaheed. But again, if there's even a discussion point, then it's not a lock. Offensive line, McCoy, Ruiz, Pete, Ramchick, Hurst, Penning. Those 6, I think we could say, are locks. Yes?
Yes.
You return your entire starting 5, and then
Yeah.
Trevor Penning goes a 1st-round pick.
Yeah.
Okay. Turner, Garcia, Trey Turner, Max Garcia, who you just signed, Throckmorton, Sal DeVeri, Landon Young. I mean, dudes who have played for you, made the team, but they still got to go make the team.
Yeah, out of that group, I think, like out of the group you just named, I think Throckmorton's the one most likely, just because of what you said earlier. I know, but what you said earlier, 20 starts, he's been your most reliable backup. I actually would consider him. I would consider him a lock.
There's no way he's a lock.
Okay.
There's no chance he's a lock.
You got to have backups.
If he was a lock, they wouldn't have brought in 2 guards yesterday. So he's not. They're bringing in competition. They're saying you have to go win your spot. I'm saying you are on this team no matter what happens. Trey Turner could go ball out, and they say, Throckmorton, see ya. That could happen in camp. I'm saying lock. Understand my criteria. Not what's likely to happen. Lock. You have made this team already. Tight end, Juwan Johnson, Foster Moreau, Taysom Hill are all going to make the team.
Yeah.
They're locks. Jimmy Graham is not a lock. Jimmy Graham is. I
agree with that.
I would say that there's a greater percentage chance Jimmy Graham doesn't make this team because I don't know how you keep 4 tight ends.
Yeah. I mean, you have Lucas Kroll, too. We were talking about that yesterday.
And Jesse James.
And Jesse James, yeah.
So that's 17 on offense. Defense, Brzee, Shepard, and Saunders, the two that you signed, are locks.
Yeah.
You got Malcolm Roach there as well, who's probably going to make the team, but again, you got 3 locks. Defensive ends, Jordan, Granderson, Foskey, I think are locks. Passanio and Turner are probably going to make the team. But do I think unequivocally those two guys are on? Turner is the reason I want to do this whole exercise.
Yeah.
Because he could go the way that we saw happen with Stanley Jean-Baptiste. He was a second-round pick, didn't make the team in year 2. He sucked year 1. They cut him year 2 in camp. That could be the situation with Peyton Turner. As much as that would suck, as much as it would be a bruise to your pride, it could happen. Linebacker, Davis and Warner are your only locks. Jackson, Andrew Dowell, and Zach Bond are likely to make the team. But your only locks are Davis and Warner.
Damn near your only linebackers.
Right? We talked about that all offseason. Yeah, defensive backs, I think this is easier. Lattimore, Adebo, Alante Taylor, Bradley Roby, Tyrann Mathieu, Marcus May, and then JT Gray is going to make the team as well.
Special teams ace, yeah, for sure.
So that's 7. You're probably going to keep 10 defensive backs. You have room, but that's 7, I would say, that are locks. You agree, Paulie?
Yeah, I agree.
Disagree on any of those?
No.
Okay. And then special teams, Gillikin's going to be your punter, Zach Woods your long snapper, and you brought in Groupie to battle Lutz. Lutz isn't a lock. We thought Lutz was going to be a friggin' cap casualty this year.
Yeah.
So that's 2. You got 34 guys that I say today are locked. And maybe we had a disagreement on you said Throckmorton.
Yeah.
Maybe the defensive ends, Passanio, Turner, but that's the point of having the whole conversation. My point is, I can't remember a year leading into at the onset of Saints camp where there were this many spots where I thought there's room for somebody to jump up and win a roster spot we're not expecting. Now, do I think Jake Haener is going to make the team? Probably. I don't think they're going to leave a 4th-round pick exposed. Do I think Rashid Shaheed's going to make the team? I absolutely do. I do. But could there be a scenario where he doesn't? Sure. We talked about the offensive linemen. I mean, do I think if healthy, Tano Passanio is making this team? Yes, absolutely I do. I don't think it's a lock. So when you hear, play it again, when you hear Dennis at number 17, when you hear Dennis Allen say, with that context, listen to Dennis Allen again.
With all of these older veteran players, I don't have to see it every day, but at some point I got to see it, So yeah, look, there's going to be a point here in training camp preseason where all these veteran guys, have to be able to show that they can still do it and do it at a high level.
Every year, there are always surprises. I heard Hester telling this story this morning about his last year in San Diego with the Chargers. I mean, he had signed an extension with the Chargers. He was a lock to make the team. He was the starter the year. He was a returning starter. And throughout preseason, they had made some changes with the offense, and by the time they got to week 4, he's playing the whole preseason game week 4, and then they cut him. There are always, and I mean, obviously signed him with Denver and continued his career, but my point is, there's always these guys in camp, and it feels like there are more this year for the Saints than in any year that I can remember in recent memory, where there are that many dudes who, man, this feels like a pivotal year. You got to go earn it this year. Hey, thanks so much for watching. Please leave your comments. I love to interact, and be sure to hit the red subscribe button below.